YouTube?
It's not working.
Is it Sunshine State?
Yes.
It's probably going to tell you that it's being recorded and it's live.
Yeah, I had to continue. Hey, is that where the thing goes to?
You can, that's something. Yes.
What did I do?
You turned it on.
I don't need that. Just give it a white.
Lighter, light.
That's plenty good how it is.
Keep
Thanks,
this and don't touch it.
Thanks, Miss Producer.
You're welcome, Miss Recorder. It's live.
Oh, we live. Why don't you go get your AirPods? Talking about this. I mean, y'all listening to me. Y'all ain't gonna listen to that.
Where's your AirPod? In my purse. Are they right? Your purse.
I'm not even subscribed to Sunshine State recently.
Jen's watching already.
Where's your AirPod? In my purse.
What's up, everybody? We'll give a couple seconds, see if anybody else jumps on. Not going to be a long show tonight. Kind of just tell everybody a little bit about what we plan to do and BS for a few minutes and then jump off. And we'll either start back next week or the week after with our regular show. We're looking for you guys to give us guest ideas, and Devin can give his opinion of who he thinks we should have as guests too. But I'm thinking we want the unusual people or the people you think have a good story. I mean, there's always two sides to every story, and I mean, we don't want to bash anybody or any trap, but we want everybody to have the platform to come on and tell the truth of what they think about Florida racing and be able to give our opinions back to it. So, I mean, mostly that's what I want to accomplish with the show and just have some fun. We have our recap show and where we do the interviews with the winners and stuff, but just something different and fun for everybody. What are your thoughts and opinions on it, Devin?
Yeah, no, a lot of things are sugar coated, and you guys asked me to kind of come on because a lot of times, one thing I am good at is running my mouth a little bit. So a lot of times you guys have me on, and usually, it ironically, always turns out to be after golf, and I have a little bit of a buzz. But today I'm a little bit under the weather. Robert's getting the buzz. I like to see that. We like to hear him get a little wild. But and then you told me we're going on YouTube instead of Facebook, so it's a little bit more uncensored. So looking forward to it. I'm not the most creative in the world, but give me a topic. Usually, you think I can run with pretty good.
Well, I mean, I'm probably just as bad as you are. I mean, we do these shows and everybody, I'm nice and professional, but I probably sugarcoat more things than I probably should sometimes, or I want to, but sometimes it's the things you got to do. And but it's right thing. But this is just a show to come on and have some fun. And if it don't take off, we won't keep doing it. But I think everybody's gonna have fun with it. But we need your ideas on who you want as guests, and we'll line them up, or even topics you just want us to talk about, and we'll do that. I got a non-racing related topic that came up that I want us to get to the bottom to, and maybe some racers can help us figure this out. I did some research the other day while at work. Everybody knows I do retail, and there's a Coca-Cola zero sugar drink, and there's a Diet Coke. I've read the labels and ingredients. I haven't tasted either one. I can't tell the difference from the label on the ingredients if there's a difference. So I'm wondering, is Coke marketing the zero sugar to people as a different drink and just selling more Diet Coke under a different product?
Probably, but I tell you what, not to dismiss that topic, but the topic that really gets under my skin, or I guess the topic, make it one, is the non-alcoholic beer. That's a iffy to me. I don't quite understand what, why, or how. But no, when it comes to diet, I went on a little bit of a diet probably about a year ago. And I went from drinking regular soda to diet, tried the keto thing. It worked, but then I just got lazy. I mean, we're sick at home. We just DoorDash Chinese food. So the dirt car doesn't have a left side weight rule, so I don't give too much of a damn anymore.
Ken's already retracting comments on here. This is going to be good. I didn't get to see what she wrote. It just says Jen Brinson has retracted her comment.
Yeah, I got.
So back to the NA beer. You're going to probably be really surprised, but over the 25 years I've been in retail, and before I started doing this travel and remodel stuff, I was in the stores all the time and ran liquor stores. The Busch NA actually sells more than you would ever think it does.
Really? Well, I just don't get the purpose. I mean, I would say, I don't know. I mean, I would say probably most people drink beer because of what beer does to you more than how it tastes to you. I mean, if I'm going to drink something I want to taste good, it'll get me a Coke or a Dr. Pepper. If I'm going to drink a beer, I'm going to get a Buzz and then, be wide ass open. So, I don't know. It's each their own. And I guess a non-alcoholic beer, it's just like the diet. It makes you feel a little bit better about yourself.
And it technically isn't zero alcohol. I guess if you drink 6 of those, it's like the equivalent to 1 beer. But I've heard people that have had, I guess, run-ins with the law, maybe DUIs, that still want to have a drink but shouldn't, is what drinks it, or they just like does it taste like beer? But you'd really be surprised how much the Old Duels and the Busch and the 2 of them, I realized those 2 actually sell pretty decent.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is the companies are so damn big anymore that it doesn't matter. They're gonna try something, if it works, great. They'll come up with something. It just add that to the list of shit that doesn't make sense in our world.
I can tell you one person who isn't drinking the NA, and that's if you ever noticed down at after the races down at 417, Mike Bilacki drives that Thunder truck. His ain't NA, that's for sure.
No, hell, he probably got one in his water bottle for the race, don't he?
Maybe, I don't know. I know I put in my boat at Lettuce Lake, go down to Charlotte Harbor one Sunday, and I heard somebody yell, hey, Robert, coming up on a golf cart. This was 10 o'clock in the morning, and he was already plastered. Yeah.
Nah, that's years ago. And this might be a good topic. A funny story, Dick Anderson, everybody knows that when I first got into stock cars, he helped me out getting going. He told me, kind of gonna just remember off the top of my dome here, but he told me years ago they were racing somewhere up. It was like Toledo or one of them haul ass joints up north, and it was his first time there, and the best of the best was there, which he is one of the best of the best. But he was venturing out to new territory, and he went out for first practice, came in, and he said, "Man, guys, this car's fast. Let's put on jack stands till race time." Well, they told him that he was like a second and a half off the pace. And he kind of blew his mind. So he told me, true story, he told me he went to the front of the trailer, got him a few cans of liquid courage, and went out there, put on the pole, held it wide open. That's something that's cool. And another story about that is, or not about that specifically, but anybody remembers old Conrad from Punta Gorda? He used to run.
Unfortunately, he left us way too early with the 55, a Legends car.
Oh, yeah, that man was trip, man. There was multiple, and this is, I don't know what, God rest his soul. I guess he can't get in trouble anymore, but this is probably, I was probably 15, 16, so this is 13, 14 years ago. And there was one time I went up, they were calling for legend cars, and I went and got him, and he opened the door of his van, and like Cheech and Chong was hanging out inside there. But Karnac was put around his fifth gear, he stayed out of the way, and he was just out there to make laps.
He was truly doing this just to have fun, and they was probably one of the greatest guys you'd ever just talk to and have a conversation. He was always funny. But while we're on inappropriate things, I'm going to bring up a story of old Randy Fox. You probably heard this before. Somebody the other day posted on there's a group that Ross Chastain fans, and most of them are South Florida people. But somebody after the incident at Kansas or wherever they were at when he hit Hamlin, somebody made a comment on there, Ross, don't change what you're doing. What would Randy Fox do? Well, Mike Franklin told me a story that I seen the bell, but I never knew what it was for. Randy Fox used to have a bell mounted to the back of his trailer. And when a hot or pretty lady would walk by, he'd ring the bell. I said, well, Ross, Randy would probably tell you to hit him again and go ring the bell when your mom walked by.
That's funny. Yeah, man. I mean, there's so many, and that's the thing is there's not as many stories that are like that from my age or people that have raced for the last, 10 years, because unfortunately it's not the same world. But that's one man that's got. I'd like to get Mike Franklin, not Michael, Mike Franklin on here with us to tell us some of his stories from back in the day. Shoot the shit a little bit with him. He'd be a good number 2 guest since you've already got number 1.
I'm still on the fence on number 1. Maybe he shouldn't be number 1, but he's going to be a guest we need to get on someday. But Franklin would be a good one. Bresnahan would have some great stories. Winchell. Mikey Tomez, Dickie or Wayne Anderson. I mean, they've all done some shady stuff back in the day. It'd be fun to talk about that you can talk about now.
Yeah, well, and it's been so long, that it's if they get in trouble. I just got a text from my buddy LJ. I got a hell of a story. So about I don't know, I think it was last year's Eddie Braun. So I think it was New Year's night. So New Year's Eve, my cousin got married, and long story short, LJ had to pick me up, take me back to his house. It was the day before. It was a Thursday. We were practicing Friday, racing Saturday. So Thursday night, we get back to his house like 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, I'm never drinking again. So we get to the track Friday at showtime, and we're practicing. The races practice is over. It's, I don't know, it's probably 11:30 midnight. Things are kind of winding down, and it was me. I think it was me, Richie Smith, Cody Stickler, LJ, Shane Butler. I think Lee was out there. Well, long story short, Yo comes around the corner in his record. And Richie and Lee, they went to bed. I think they were on grounds probably getting in trouble as they went out with us. So Yo comes around the corner, talking shit like he usually does. Says he's been working all night. So Stickler walks over there and gets in his tow truck, and there's no temperature in the tow truck. So that's somebody for sleeping in his office all night. Because everybody knows he's got a whole condo set up in his office. So after we sit there and bullshit for a little bit, we somehow the strip club gets brought up. And I think a lot of people who know Yoho know that he's got, whether it's past or current involvements in the fine nudist establishments in Pinellas Park. So next thing I know, Stickler's coming around in his truck. Yoho jumps in, we all jump in, and we go to the strip club. And we walk we walk into the first one, and we're treated like kings right away. Like I said, it's still prime hour. It's probably midnight at this point. We walk in there, we're treated like kings, get a few drinks. Well, Yoho goes live on Facebook. Cody went to bed that night. It was me, Yoho, Shane, and LJ. Sorry, I know I get these stories and stuff. So next thing you know, Yoho goes live on Facebook from inside the strip club, and on Showtime Speedway's Facebook, and I guarantee you go back and probably find it. And he starts asking random people in the club who their favorite driver is, and they, believe it or not, they know who we are. We sit there and finally, and I mean, back to the screen, you can see girls dancing and whatnot. So we had our fun there. We left, and really had no idea where we were going. Another caveat of the story is Michael Goddard was driving Yoho's car the next day. So Yoho was determined to get, me, LJ, a couple of pretty tore up, so we wouldn't be worth it then come race time. And we get to the second club, we walk in, we see a couple guys we know, and next thing we know, Yoho hands, the general manager walks up to Yoho like he's his best friend. Yoho hands him a wad of $100 bills. And the next time we see Yo, he's up on the stage. He's got like 5 chairs up there for us, a couple of bottles of champagne, and waves us over. And so we go up there, and there's pictures of that night that are like the end of the movie The Hangover that they show in the credits. There's some pictures from that night that have never been publicly shown, and probably shouldn't. In some cases it's okay. And he gave us all a stack of $1 bills that the general manager gave back to him. They had bottles of champagne, and then we went back to the hotel and probably spent $100 in the hotel snack bar because we were all drunk and hungry.
So I was gonna make this the second topic I was gonna ask you, but since you mentioned Yoho and he's involved, we'll make this the first topic. Yoho earlier in the year led me on a mission to think of something that I hadn't thought about before. When probably 10 days in a row he did his live video on mounting and measuring tires and figuring out stagger and stuff in his tech shed. And that's the need for teams, for tire specialists, and I guess the fairness of what you would think a tire specialist would be. I get if you have a tire specialist for your team, but to me, Yoho kind of opened my eyes to when the same tire specialist does it for multiple teams, who gets the better tires?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what all, now there's I think 2 or 3 of these companies and I'm not as educated on I'm not really into all the stuff, but there are 2 or 3 of these teams, or 2 or 3 of these companies, I guess you could say, that are going out and doing this. They're traveling the country, which that tells me one thing: they're obviously getting paid well to be able to travel the country and have 5, 6 different guys, this, that, and the other. And I actually did. We talked about this earlier in the week, and Yoho. I was at one of the races. Yoho absolutely lost his mind on Weeder, Wesley Weed, and Yoho's got Yoho's rules, and he doesn't want you to do anything unless he approves it. I mean, everybody knows how he is. Love him or hate him, he's never changed. Some people say it's a bad thing, some people say it's a good thing. But I did a little bit of research, and from what I hear, some of these guys are paying $150 per set of tires, like per set of tires. And it's like, I think it's kind of like, NASCAR went to this next gen car, and it's hell. I think Michael McDowell ran up front this last weekend at the road course. But last year, or the last time they had the old car, would he ever done that? No, you're going to have your 10 to 15 cars that are going to have a shot to win every week. And I think a lot of that that's the biggest problem in super late model racing that nobody wants to address, because if they address it, they're going to have to, stop it. And you're not going to get somebody like Donnie Wilson or,
right.
My buddy's not going to stop that. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't fault any of these guys, and I promised myself I wouldn't bring up names for making a living doing this, and they're doing it really well, and they're good at their job, I guess. And as long as that many teams are willing to pay them to do it, man, they're doing good. I would feel like if I was one of the teams that was paying the amount of money and I wasn't winning and the other team was on the tires, my same tire person picked out, and I was 5th or 6th, is it really my car? Is it tire? I mean, I would love to have a tire specialist if I was a car owner, but I don't know that I would want somebody that does it for multiple teams. But more power to these people, because they're making it work. And I've talked to multiple drivers this week since I talked to you, and they say the ones they've used are fair and on the up and up. It's just something that's always struck me is I don't understand it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't. Up until we've gotten a shortage of everything. Hoosier, and even American Racer. I mean, American Racer had their little bit of issues, but Hoosier, they were making really good they were giving you a really good consistent product. So where I don't think it really is ever an issue, like I said, amongst the 10 to 15 top teams that race throughout the country. I don't think it's ever an issue as far as who's getting better tires. I mean, everybody's running a different stagger. I think, like I said before, tires, we got a shortage or whatever. Tires were pretty much punching the same durometer. There's a lot of things that were equal about them. So, you tell them what you want stagger wise, they get it for you. But that's kind of just breaking the barrier of one of the things that's wrong when it comes to our mecca of short track racing, which it's asphalt Super Late model racing. I mean, it's back almost on a level like I feel like it was when I was, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and like Speed TV or whatnot. Map TV and you guys, Racing America. Flow Racing. I mean, you can watch racing almost every night of the week, but I think getting into the top that tire deal, I think that's only the tip of the iceberg because, I mean, you've got super late model teams that are paying crew chiefs a very, very, very good living, like a very good living. And not only, when you have a short track series that's got, let's just say 3 full-time employees. Okay, let's just say you're paying them guys 40 grand a piece. So you're talking over $100,000. I mean, to me that's a low end. You can't live on much less than that stuff to do. But you're spending over $100,000 and not even going to the first racetrack. You know what I mean? And that's them 10 to 15 teams don't have an issue spending the extra $150. I'm sure it's gone up $200, $250 for somebody to cover their pass. You know what I mean? And it's just, and I've heard the argument of people not wanting, it's cheaper to pay the $150 to get somebody to do your tires than it is to have an all expense paid crew member and this, that, and the other. But still, man, it's to me, it's a tip of the iceberg issue when it comes to super late model racing.
Well, hell, you got people paying $70,000, $80,000 for brand new sportsman cars. I mean, I'm really impressed with how the Crown Vics and the pure stocks, I mean, have taken off in the state of Florida, and it's amazing. But when you get into these upper classes, the amount of money, some of them, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the best thing that the sportsman deal, to me, and I've talked to Billy Bigley about this, to me, the sportsmen are a lot like, Billy was in a street stop at Punta Gorda last time we were down there. He was in a sportsman car, and I was down there with my modified. And he's getting ready to go up for practice, and I said, Billy, how similar are these to your late models from late 90s, early 2000s? He said they drive the exact same, just no motor. And that's what they are. To me, these things are big spring late models. They're tube clip, big spring late models, rack and pinion steering. I mean, like you said, people are spending $7.
They're basically like the old school pro late models, right? With wedge bodies or.
Oh yeah, and that's that's a whole other avenue. But I think with the sportsman deal, I think Ricky Brooks is going to try to reel that in. I don't know. He can't do it too much because too many people have already spent a lot of money. I mean, there's probably 70 sportsman cars in the state of Florida that are legal for what it is now. But he's got a tough task, when it comes to that. But he's got a tough task when it comes to late models too. And does he even want to change late models? Are these promoters making so much money off of these 15 guys? I'm just using that as a number. These 15 guys that travel the country racing at their tracks. Are they making enough money on a weekend when, a big 30,000 win super late model, or maybe not that much, but let's say a 20,000 win super late model race, they're going to have 18 to 20 cars. To me, that's just not, that doesn't make any sense unless those 15 to 20 cars are spending just asphalt.
So another guest idea came through my head. We got to get Brian Danforth on here just because I missed the big plug he does for the Raging Racing Bull engines.
Oh yeah, I mean I've known the Bulls, so I raced go-karts is what I started out in, and I grew up racing. Brandon was a little bit older. I think Kyle was a little bit younger, but Brian used to build motors for Gecker, and they're good guys who still do, from what I hear, do stuff at a really affordable rate that people can take on a national level and win with it. And them guys are doing it probably out of the goodness of their heart just as much as they are to make money, which means they're probably a little bit more, economical.
I got a YouTube comment. Matthew M said it's going to cost at least $50,000 to be competitive in the super late models with an okay driver. Bought my car in 16 for $32,000. Won the Adel Championship in 19 with it.
Yeah, that's probably a little high to me. I mean, on a low level. But I mean, hell, I don't know. It costs you $1,000 to drive to any racetrack right now. So that could be true. But, another thing with the late models is with the technology that's in them, things are changing every week. So where you're fine tuning a 16th, eighth of an inch on all four corners. But when you got a big spring car like a Sportsman, you just go out there drive the shit out of it, and to me, a driver can make up more. You know what I mean, with something like that. But I think 50 grand might be a little high, but it's certainly a realistic number. I mean, these guys that are running locally, you never want to look at the end of the year. You never want to save receipts. Some tax people, you got to, but because you're going to save a receipt and wonder why the hell you do it at the end of the year. Because even if you win a lot, it's still pretty bright red.
And when you do these traveling races, all over the country and stuff, I get you, maybe the big league race or the Governor's Cup, if you win, you expect to make a little money. But when they're traveling all over to these big races, they're not making it. William Byron won 10 grand at the Money in the Bank race last week. I guarantee you that race cost him more than that.
So I've done the, fortunately back when I was 18, 17, 18, I had a sponsor. I did the pay to play per se, you know what I mean? And it ain't cheap, promise you that. And I'm sure William Byron probably got a little bit better deal than I did, when I was 17, 18 years old. But still, somebody's footing that bill. Whether it's Donnie Wilson coming out of pocket to get Byron in his car, or it's Karnac.com who's on the quarter panel. Somebody's paying that bill. And I mean, you look at, Donnie Wilson's an easy target because they've won, it seems like, every race here in the last couple months. They roll up like looking like 2 or 3 cup teams ready to do battle. You know what I mean? And then, one person that I got a lot of respect for, or I guess people, are the Weavers who run. I'm pretty sure they've been, and I have to do some research. I'm pretty sure that they haven't missed a World Series of asphalt stock car racing at New Smyrna in
I don't think so.
a long time. And they show up every year. And I mean, hell, I think there was a race a couple years ago. They wrecked, I think it was when, Jamie Skinner and Jet Nolan were wrecking, which that Jet Nolan kid, he's something else. They're wrecking every damn race. And I think, one of the Weaver brothers ended up finishing like second or third, and that was his best finish ever. And it's like, that's somebody still doing it because they love it and they don't care about getting out dollars.
And they're doing it for the love of the sport and for their family, and they're literally counting, on that start money or whatever to get to help get home, because I don't think it was with Joe and Janet. It's been a way back at Punta Gorda. It might have been when Kevin was there. We had a rain out and they came over from Miami and they bought tires. And I remember a group of us got together, and I think it was maybe Kevin, and went and asked if they could at least give them part of the refund back or whatever to the next race. Cause literally they were counting on some of that money to help get gas money to get home. And you got to respect people that love racing that much.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's not, with all the things to do in this world anymore. I mean, holy shit, that's a lot of salsa. My old lady's eating chips and salsa in front of me. But all the people who, I forgot, what the hell were we even talking about?
We're talking about the Weavers.
The Weavers, yeah, hell, they're great guys. But with all the things to do in the world, I mean, who wants to go to a racetrack knowing you're out dollar, knowing you can't run better than 5th, and instead of taking your family or hell buying a boat, you know what I mean? There ain't nobody going to run you on a boat if you go out to the sandbar and have a good time. And that's, there's not many people like that anymore. And like I said, the Weavers are, and that'd be a good person. Unfortunately, I don't really know them. I just know of them. But if we can get some,
I can make contacts to get them on.
Yeah, and tell us their perspective on what makes them want to continue to do that. Is it because they've done it so long now that it's something cool that they can say they've done? You know what I mean? So that's cool that there are still a few people like that just do it because they love it.
So, people, we need you guys to go to Sunshine State Racing and message us or post on our wall or comment on this video who you want us to see do as guest. And I'm going to throw out one person I'd originally thought of trying to get as the first guest, but I maybe want to do it down the road. And I have selfish reasons behind doing this. I want to get Jamie Skinner on because, man, that guy's all over the place and would tell us how it is. But I also want to throw him out a challenge to see what it would take to get a Devin McLeod in one of those Race Car Solution Pro late models for a race.
Believe it or not, shortly after I did the Russell years ago, I had a little bit of talks with the Skinners, but unfortunately, like I said, somebody's got to pay that bill. And at the end of the day, I mean, deals can be made, dollars can be cut, but somebody's got to pay the raw costs. But no, Jamie, I don't really know a lot of. I know he went on a pretty good rant about the CRA and crate motors, and obviously their business is primarily out of New Smyrna. And I tell you, unfortunately, it's like New Smyrna. If they can figure out something to do to hurt themselves, it seems like they do it. It almost seems like it's turning into like I think what Lakeland was before we lost Lakeland. You've got your 2 to 3 big events a year. You got speed weeks. The Governor's Cup, unfortunately, isn't even really that big anymore. And Jamie sees the concern in that, and nothing's, in his opinion, nothing's being done to address it. They brought CRA in, and they think all these guys that wear shirts and ties got to make these decisions and shit. And no, it's the people like Jamie Skinner who try to do this stuff for a living. Kind of like, Donnie Wilson. Like I said, it's a catch-22. But, yeah, I'd like to get him on there. I don't know the debate about the crate motors, the Fords, the Chevys, but I'd like to find some more out about it.
And they talking about Wilson Motorsports, they got it going on right now. And they got Dennis Dean from here in Florida who's really gone up there and made a big impact with them. And it's nice to see somebody from our neck of the woods that used to help Anthony Sergi, now that Anthony's moved on, get a chance with one of these big teams and having success. Everybody always gives me a hard time about pushing Ross and all these people from Florida and Josh Williams. But in my opinion, the more accomplishments these guys get, the more people are going to look on our Florida racers, and the more it's going to help the Colton Bettises and the Bubba Van Devender and TJ DeCares. If there wasn't anybody ever having success from Florida, how seriously are people going to take them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing about that is I agree 100%. But I tell you, race car drivers in the country aren't racing on Sundays. And you could say that. I can say that with confidence that there are 43 race car drivers that there's hundreds of thousands of race car drivers that, given the right opportunity, can make just as good of make things just as good as people like Ross or any of them guys, given the right opportunity. Unfortunately, Ross was, but I agree, man. It's I never really raced with Ross. I knew him well. I raced a lot with Josh Williams. Believe it or not, them two didn't like each other there for a while. But they've done Florida proud. Josh has really, really grinded and worked his way up. Now he's racing for BJ, and they seem to be doing pretty good. I don't watch the NASCAR stuff too much. And with Ross, how can you not see how good he's doing? Even if you don't watch the races, you see something either good or bad.
Well, that and Josh is really doing successful with his Josh Williams Motorsports. Johnny Holmes now isn't even traveling with and working with the Xfinity team. He's strictly doing Josh's developmental stuff with the legends, and they had the ARCA car run here and there. So Josh has got a lot going on behind the scenes. And his dad fed him along and kept him with good equipment and what he needed. But you probably saw it racing against those guys. It wasn't handed to them. If they wanted to race, they were made to go to the shop and learn it and work on it themselves. They didn't have a paid crew other than them. Kevin, once they got old enough, paid them to do it, but they didn't have hired people. They were made to learn and do it themselves.
Yeah, well, and I can see more of that on Josh. Josh and I were really close there for a while. We raced legend cars together, and he helped me get my legend car program better when I had it. I know Ross they had their family deal. They made that jump a lot quicker. I think Ross wasn't kind of one of them growing up doing it. He jumped in it and started having success. So, you can't fault somebody for having success and given the opportunity to move up. But Josh, he really, really got good with them legend cars. And, he was the car to beat. I finished second numerous times to him down at Punta Gorda. Granted, we were racing hard, but he just had the better car. And I think that probably helps him now because BJ probably gives him, and obviously Mario also, in race for Mario out of Bartow area, they gave him probably some input, or he probably had input into what he was doing because he's not an idiot. He knows about race cars. And We all have different ways to do things, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to get full tires to make the best kind of contact we can.
Yeah, and somebody said, "What about Michael Atwell?" Michael Atwell is really great talent here out of Florida. I mean, we probably, and I don't want to age you too much, Devin, but there's probably a group of you guys that we kind of overlook as the young guns anymore. I mean, you and Michael Atwell and even Michael Goddard and Dylan Bigley, because you guys have progressed over the 20 into 25, and now it's the younger guns are TJ DeCare and Colton Bettis and Bubba Van Devender and even young Bryson Colbert. I mean, those guys are turning heads, and but I mean, we have a lot of talent here in Florida between you guys and then even moving on down.
Yeah, well, and that's, it's not being forgot about. It's just in order to stay relevant, you got to win races. And Atwell won that Bigley race last year, and over on social media, all I saw was Michael Atwell's name for 3 damn weeks, or up until the Derby. You know what I mean? And even at the Derby, that's all they talked about. That's awesome. That's what it's about. It's about the publicity, and and Michael's got great car owner with Marty Walsh, and but these kids are getting younger and getting more opportunities younger. I mean, TJ he's hauling ass. I think he's in Charlotte tonight. You know what I mean? In a car that's not even his own. So that's what happens. You start winning races, and opportunities start opening up. And Colton Bettis, that kid. There ain't any 12-year-olds in this world that would even have the balls to sit in a sprint car. You know what I mean? Like, they're scared of him. And he was born into a racing family, and he's got an opportunity. He's running with it. He can't ever fault. You always hear the daddy's money or granddaddy's money or whatever, but that'd be one thing if hell, this is unfiltered, right?
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if you're like Jet Nolan tearing shit up every week, and not having much to show for it. I mean, hell, he's been through everybody in Florida working on his shit. But these young kids, they're making opportunities for themselves. They're given the piece of equipment, but they've got to go out there and do it. And I guarantee you, legend cars and non-wing sprint cars are the two hardest things that you ever drive if you're a race car driver. Done it myself. I mean, obviously I was in a dirt car on asphalt, but they're not easy. And these kids they're making the best out of the opportunities they've been given.
And what I guess impresses me about TJ DeCare, Bubba Van Devender, Bryson Colbert, and Dodge Colbert, because he helps his brother and he does a lot on his own. And Colton Bettis is, watch these kids in the pits. They're not hanging out in the trailer playing video games all day. They're out there working on these cars. I mean, probably one of the hardest working ones is Bubba Van Devender. Now he's at the A-Mod and the Pure Stock. I mean, he helped he had some really good people behind him. The Van Devender family and Goddards are really good at building cars, but they didn't build it for him. He was in the shop and out of the track working on this thing himself. These kids are earning it.
They damn sure are. And and I've been on the other side of that too. I've been to getting outrun by daddy, this, that, and the other. But I'm old, but I'm 29 and I've been racing for 22 years. So it used to be cool when I was 13, 14 years old. I get out of the car and I'm half the size of the car. But you just gotta have, like I said, you gotta respect what these kids are doing. I mean, hell, Colton Bettis is taking in so much knowledge. He can't even wear his hat all the way on his head. His head gets so big. But
Well, and let's hit on Colton a little bit. I've been out the Carino Ranch or Circle C or whatever you want to call, and
me too.
Well, not only that boy's learning more than race stuff. He's learning life skills. It's going to take him a long way the rest of his life. I mean, everybody might say Tony gives him whatever he wants, but I was out there and the kid was in a front end loader loading dirt into a dump truck and grading the thing where they were going to build a new shop or racetrack or whatever Tony had in his mind he was going to build this time. I mean, at 12 years old, this kid knows how to run more heavy equipment and drive dump trucks and stuff that I'd never even think about getting into. And these are life lessons that he's going to learn the rest of his life. So, I mean, he may get rewarded by getting the cars and stuff and to help, but he's earning it just in a different way.
Absolutely. Like I said, not every, and this is, I mean, I like the Carino family, you know, I told them we love them, but he's getting an opportunity and he's clearly thankful for it and clearly making the most out of it. Can't ever fault a kid for making the most out of it. You know, there's been plenty of kids that have come and gone who, you know, get an opportunity and, I mean, you know, kind of recent and, I don't have a problem with the kid, but it ain't no die. You know, he's been given great opportunities and he still is, you know, I think the world, everything happens so much in the world that people are going to forget about, you know, what he did a month ago. But, you know, he's got a great opportunity and it seems like he's got some funding to back him up and you go and make a boneheaded move and do something that's just like, what, you know? And, I mean, you know, like these kids that we're talking about now, they could go out and do that. I mean, they're all kids. But right now you can't, you got to just give them credit where it's due that they're going out and they're busting ass, whether it's, you know, on race cars or working or help, but they're doing something to get what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Well, I know we've been quite a while and you're not feeling great. So I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else you want to bring up?
No. You know, I didn't think we'd have much to talk about, but, you know, I'll pull something out of thin air. You give me an idea and I'll run with it, I guess. But, looking forward to doing this with you. I only called out 2 people tonight, so I might.
I say you work on looking for the old Mike Franklin in your phone and see if we can't get a hold of him and line him up for next week.
We might be able to do that. Obviously, it's not going to be, you know, the Mike Franklin, but I think we can get some sort of version of him that, you know, hopefully.
Tell him if he doesn't come on as Mike Franklin, we're going to get Cheryl to come on and tell his stories.
Shoot, I'll invite Cheryl to come hang out with me. She likes me better anyways. So, no, man, I'm looking forward to doing this more with you. You know, you kind of asked me for a little bit now, and I kept kind of putting it off, but I like to talk. Give me some ideas. Hopefully I don't know how many people we got watching. Hopefully it's a decent amount. Hopefully it increases. People have ideas, and I promise you, if anybody wants to DM me and tell me something and remain anonymous, you will remain anonymous because we all like a good laugh. And if Robert and I can bring that to you at somebody else's expense, this is unfiltered. So, and we want this to be fun. I mean, we want it to be information about racing and help promote racing as a sport. But there's two sides to every story, and there's stuff that's entertaining that doesn't get talked about all the time that can help build up racing as well. I mean, I want to get, maybe it's an old story, but Batman Robinson on one time, one of my first ever open wheel modified races I've ever seen. What'd you say? I said, oh yeah, he'll spew some bullshit at us. He's a bullshitter.
Well, not only, I mean, one of the first open wheel races I ever watched, him and Phil Morrison down at 417 got into it, and they turn one going for, I know it's going to be hard for you Batman fans to believe, but going for a win. And they he was fired up back then. I mean, just to get some old stories out of him.
I tell you, another one is something that came to mind is maybe get like Nick Neary on here to go over something somewhat fresh on memories of the Bigley race last year. Everybody's got their opinions about it. Would be cool to get Nick on here, hear his side of the story, tell him what we think. Or hell, maybe his dad was really the MVP of that deal, so maybe we'll get his old man on here.
Well, thanks everybody for joining our first edition of Short Track Unfiltered with me and Devin, and we'll see you guys next week. And we'll try to get our guests announced as soon as we can. So if you have questions or whatever, but right now we're going to try our best to get Mike Franklin on for you.
Have a good night.